I got some OVW stuff.
Oh, cool.
And well, I haven't read this stuff in 25 years, so bear with me because I did get wordy back in those days when I actually cared about imparting knowledge to people. So I will pick through this, but there was a memo I sent to the talent when we got on WBKI here, the WB station, when they came into, I've told that story before of how they came into market. And before Danny's, originally the OVW show was on a low power station here in Louisville that didn't have any viewership or any reach. I think that's the one that a couple of women were running out of a fucking mobile home, right? And when we finally landed that, we instantly got on full cable coverage of top tier of channels, as they say, the top 10, Channel 7. And boom, we had an audience. And I'm trying to explain to everybody who was there then, because this was early developmental talent. This was, I think, May of 2000. So this was the very earliest developmental talent and a bunch of guys that Danny had trained. But I mean, Densmore, Conway, people that would soon to be heard of, but they'd never really been on TV before where anybody actually saw it. So I gave them, a memo saying this will make a noticeable difference in your life. You will be recognizable in the Louisville area, because our first week did a 1 rating and the second week was a 1.1. And it said, we're just this week or next week going to be included in the TV listings because of the press deadlines. So we hadn't even got going yet, but because of the viability of the station, we already had an audience. And I know somebody said one time, do you remember when somebody said, oh, Cornette's a liar, he's bullshit, OVW did a 1 rating, that'd be like 1.5 million people or whatever, like this blithering dipshit didn't know the difference between a national 1 and a local 1.
That's right.
But we were doing well on a local basis there, as they say. But anyway, I said, our main purpose at OVW is to be as good as we can be, teaching you as much as you can learn and get everyone prepared for a job in the big leagues. There are a number of things I'm seeing you can correct to help yourselves accomplish this. If you're not serious enough about this to do these things, we need to know now so you can move aside for the folks that really want it. Look professional. Keep your tights clean. Go to a dry cleaner, get the sleeves of your jackets or pants hemmed to the proper length for $10. Keep your shirt tails tucked in or pin the goddamn things inside your pants. Always be in gimmick when performing on any show in front of people. At one of the flea market shows, guy forgot his bag and was out there in sweatpants. Conditioning is important, including referees, drop the pot bellies, get in the gym or get on a diet and improve your cardio. The WWF wants athletes who can work. If you can work your ass off and still look like a fat hobo, you might as well fold your tent. We are attracting a large amount of talent who want to come here for training. In addition to the contract employees, there will be competition for spots. The talent that is in shape, focused, dedicated, and can go will be featured, and the others will not. Stay in the hunt. At St. Therese last week, the babyface locker room was almost a ghost town during the 2 main events. Watch the matches. You learn by watching almost as much as by doing. All WWF contract talent is required from this point forward to watch as many matches as possible, and non-contract talent is encouraged to, because sometimes we had to put some guys on early if they were working the night shift bartending or whatever, right? If they didn't have a contract. So sometimes we had to let guys out early. But anyway, it is mandatory now that all of you can see the TV show, because some people couldn't actually get the fucking TV show and still lived here in town on the old station. Now that all of you can see the TV show, watch it each week or tape it. It looks considerably different after post-production. You'll learn from the commentary. All of you have the potential for a career in this business. Some of you a lot of potential, but all the potential in the world is not good enough without focus, effort, desire, and opportunity. We are not home movies anymore. We're establishing a real territory and setting up contacts with other promoters. We are increasing our involvement with the WWF in several areas. Don't be left out. So a good little rah-rah speech, right? Because this wasn't a year into the program yet.
Yeah, what was the date on that?
Well, it was, we debuted on WB in May of 2000. So somewhere around there, first week or two.
So are there any specific talents you'd be addressing indirectly, like with any of those specific complaints about?
Actually more of the local guys that all of a sudden weren't realizing they were about to get left back. A lot of guys that Danny trained thought they were probably just going to do this here for fun, and a few of them got chances to do it for real because they were good. But remember, I've said, Mr. Black, you're 22 years old. You weigh 420 pounds. If you weigh 350, I can get you a contract with the fucking WWF. And you wouldn't lose weight. Shit like that. So I'm trying to prepare the guys that they're going to be held to a higher standard.
In your head, as you're writing that, are you thinking about Bill Watts and the memos you got in Mid-South?
Well, yes, but I mean, just any memo from.
Were there a lot of memos other than Bill Watts?
Well, no, I guess Dusty didn't give out memo. Watts didn't give out nearly as many memos as I did, though. I was a memo guy because these people didn't know any of this stuff or didn't know anything of what we were about to teach them. So with Watts, he'd just send out a memo whenever guys had pissed him off. If I did that, I'd send out more memos than I goddamn sent out, I guess. But you know what I mean.
Like one time, and I have it on video, Dennis Carluzzo gave a really fired up locker room speech because the previous show, and I won't say who it was because I don't think they've accepted it was them, even though it was them. One of the wrestlers was given, as you would say, the Iggy by the referee, time to wrap up, and the exact words were, "Fuck Carluzzo, I'm getting heat." And Dennis gave this whole speech about, look, we have to have a schedule. We're not just wrestling as long as you want. And he gives this whole fired up speech.
Yeah.
The wrestler he was talking about wasn't there. So
shit.
So the next time we had to show him the videotape of the speech. It was so awkward. It's like, here's the speech you would have heard. Like he has to sit there and watch a video of it.
Here's the speech you caused that you would have heard was he supposed to be there?
He was, I believe.
And he didn't show up. So there you go. Anyhow, this is something, and actually I didn't even remember I sent this at all. But this was after, it's attached to, let me see if there's a goddamn date on this. The fucking paper clip is fossilized. It's the Wrestling Observer obituary for Crash Holly. And it doesn't have, I can't find a date. Do you know what year that was offhand?
2002, 2003, somewhere in there, I think. Brian Solomon would know.
Well, he ain't here. But it's the OVW letterhead for my letter has our new building address, so I assume it was after 2002. But anyway, I copied, and I haven't read the obituary in quite some time, so I don't know what points were made, but apparently I thought it was something that should have been conveyed. But the cover letter is to all the talent from me, and it says, "We speak often of success stories in our business, but perhaps we don't speak often enough about the other side of the coin. The death of Crash Holly a few weeks ago seems to be the opportunity to do that. Crash was one of the first talents put on developmental contract 5 years ago. And the reason for that was, and Brian, do you remember, we haven't even talked about this since in the 10 years you and I have been doing this show, but the San Francisco shows that Vic Grimes and Crash Holly's original name, that he was a leprechaun, Aaron O'Grady.
Aaron O'Grady.
But the tapes that Actually, Stacy's friends, Ron Head and J.R. Benson.
Yeah, that's where I first saw him. That's where I first saw Aaron O'Grady. Yeah.
They sent us from California, and it was, obviously there was a lot of guys. Hey, kids, let's put on a show. And then there's these two guys. And for various reasons to me, for varying reasons, I should say, different reasons, both of them stood out. Grimes was the big fucking, he was another Mick Foley in that he had just a repulsive looking fat fucking body and a bald fucking head and blah, blah, blah. But he could move and do all this shit and take the bumps and everything. But okay, as Denny Crum said, I don't want guys to know how to play basketball. Just give me guys can jump. I'll teach them how to play basketball. And Aaron O'Grady was complete opposite. He's too small, but he's a great athlete. He's, built well and is an incredible worker with the shit he can do. So I got them the tryout match they had in, I guess it was at a Raw San Francisco, whatever. And they got two of the early developmental deals when at that point, the only place to go was down to Memphis, first with Lawler and then, later on with Randy Hales. But as I've said, Grimes turned out to be, he just couldn't get his head out of fucking garbage wrestling and couldn't get the picture mentally and pissed him off and they fucking ran him off. Well, they didn't run him off. They don't have to run you off in the WWF. They fired him.
New Jack ran him off the scaffold.
Well, New Jack ran him off of life, I guess. But with Crash, he had a better mindset for it and he made it. But anyway, so I'll continue the memo here. Crash was one of the first talents put on developmental contract 5 years ago. His story is remarkably similar to many of yours. He had a good WWE run, but ended up being miserable there, being let go, and dying at the age of 32. Why was he unhappy, or why was he so unhappy with his job that he developed an alcohol problem, or was it his problem that made him unhappy at his job? Did the WWE quit using him well, then not at all because of this problem, or did the problem stem from them not using him? We may never really know, but hopefully we can learn a lesson from it. I liked Crash, and I'm no way trying to blame him for anything. But all of you can heed some advice from this situation. Open your eyes to the realities of the profession you're entering, its positives and its negatives. Be sure you enjoy what you enjoy about wrestling enough to offset the bullshit. Be prepared that in this business, it's talent and luck, and sometimes the chances you get or the way that you're used aren't fair. Be prepared at all times to take advantage of an opportunity you're given and hit a home run. Don't feel once you get to the WWE roster that you have the pull to show up late or impaired or complain about your push. If you start making money, take half-ass care of it because it may or may not always be that way. Pay attention to all aspects of the business because you may need to branch out at some point to stay employed or successful. And feel free to enjoy being young and a worldwide superstar and being on TV and pay-per-view without feeling like you have to turn it into Keith fucking Richards and or Courtney Love and screw all of it up. With the style of work these days, you'll probably be prescribed enough pills already without building up a tolerance so you're screwed when you really need them. There are a lot of people who lead great lives from this business, but there are some who don't. I'm not telling you to be saints, but I am telling you to be smart.
Wow.
And you know what? That kind of got to me.
Yeah, I could tell.
Because I don't remember doing that, but I did.
The Crash Holly thing is interesting. There's an episode of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon that I was a guest on, and he told the story. I brought him up earlier, half joking, but it's true. He was writing for WWE Magazine, and I want to say it was like something innocent, like an article on short wrestlers, or he made reference to him being a shorter wrestler, which was his gimmick,
Yes.
He got really offended by it and like started harassing Brian Solomon.
Oh, good Lord.
And it turned out apparently he was bothering other people there. At some point, he just became miserable up there and was determined to take it out on other people. And then the way Brian Solomon tells it, again, suawpod.com, someone got word to Shane McMahon, who was running the magazine. And then one day Shane just comes over to Solomon in the office like, hey, that thing, it won't be a problem anymore. Walks away. But, and that's, you know, again, we don't know what caused the problems, what were the problems. Obviously, we've learned a lot since then about concussions and about a number of things. You know, you talk about those early shows in San Francisco. I remember one, I think he may have been on it. I want to say JR and Ron did it either like Valentine's Day or Father's Day. It was like a weird holiday to do a show. They brought like Candido and Sabu out.
Oh, the Father's Day Bash.
Father's Day Bash in 94. That's right.
Yes. Because Candido and Tammy asked off that weekend for me, and Stacy was on the show, as a matter of fact. I've got the poster.
Well, that was the first time I ever saw Matt Hyson. There was some really small, skinny guy who jumped like onto his head on the floor. It looked awful. And then like a year later, he was Spike Dudley.
Spike Dudley. But point me, even if it wasn't about Crash, because the topic came up a couple of weeks ago of what kind of advice did I give guys, or, you know, guys in Ring of Honor or OVW or tryout seminars or whatever. And then it came up again. We were talking about Moxley saying, don't have a backup plan. Give this your all. Sleep in your car until you fucking sell your blood.
Foot on the gas, into the wall.
Put on the gas, baby.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was telling the guys in OVW in writing. Here is this. This is, can you say that whether the subject was drugs or ego or mad about your payoff or anything, that there was anything in there that a goddamn young aspiring wrestler should not have heard?
No, I think it's something that they all needed to hear. It's something that not a lot of guys necessarily would hear, especially in writing. Every now and then, you know, you'd hear about like Vince McMahon pulled everyone together to give a speech. But it's an important message. Do you think guys listen to it? You're doing your job and you're doing everything you can as the trainer and also as a responsible person, but do you think you have a receptive audience when the guys are that young and doing these things?
If I had the list of, you know, probably 40 guys that this went, and girls that this went out to, I could tell you, because the ones that listened either still have their money or have a job if they want one now, or had never had a goddamn drug habit, or hopefully been in fucking problem with the law. And then there's probably some who in that room who didn't listen because they aren't around anymore. There's a few of those too.